Hello, Sunshines. Ereg here. Today, I just wanted to go over my process of creating this illustration. So to start off, this piece is actually a commission, and after getting one of my thumbnail approved by the client, I jumped straight into sketching. As you can see, with lines developing the character, the background, and I'm actually not a huge fan of doing backgrounds with lines, where I always prefer to just jump straight into painting just because it's so much easier for me to showcase the form and the depth of the scene with paint rather than lines. Yeah, so this is what I kind of end up going for almost right away. And this is like somewhat was a mistake because it was just so early on where I was not even gonna settle on the perspective and the general composition. Like I had an idea where I want to go with this piece, but it certainly did slow down my progress a lot going like straight into values like that early on. And slowing down your progress on the piece that much can actually lead to you burning out or getting tired of the artwork, and that is like a huge thing for me, since this piece is actually a great example of where I almost like give up or start over in like during the middle of the piece. Like you can see here where I just redo almost the whole composition. Like I literally changed the perspective, where so I have to redraw most of the background, the character in its entirety, and pretty much just start over. Although sometimes you just gotta do some progress on the piece to realize that your idea does not work. There is like it is like pretty much the reason why I dislike doing line art so much. It's just I just can't tell if the piece is going to work later on in colors if I do it in lines or not. Yeah, there's I'll just jump straight into painting. Um, for this current moment in the piece, I think I'm pretty much set on the composition and the background. Like, so I just want to just start kind of doing more details everywhere, developing the values, the colors. You can see me constantly going over everything, like adding a little bit more, kind of pushing stuff in the back or darkening other parts to flesh them out even more. This part of the painting is probably the most fun one, where everything is so rough, no matter what you touch, you can see visible progress on it. There's so like it is like a field of easy wins where you, like no matter what you work on, it kind of gives you boost of motivation to continue working on a piece. Right here, I start doing some um, things that will not play out good in long term. So I'm trying to add some smoke, and it's like a graphic element that I wanted to introduce into this piece, just because I didn't feel like it holds together, like the background and the character. I felt like there has to be something that would, put it all together, kind of wrap up the composition and like, the look for the piece. And a little spoiler, uh, I end up ditching it at the end, but I will play around almost till the end of this artwork, which by the way took me 37 hours to complete, if you believe it or not. Yeah, quite some time to spend on one artwork, but I usually don't try to kind of limit myself in the amount of hours what I put into piece. I just try to work on it as I feel like it. Like until it's done, I'll be working on it more and more. In terms of values on this piece, I definitely try to make character darker than the background and have the background kind of fade away into the sky by making it brighter as it gets further into distance. Also decreasing the amount of contrast, as things get far and far from the camera, from the viewer. Just general things to make the atmospheric perspective look realistic. Getting some more details on the character done. There's actually not much to comment on the character. While doing personal commissions, it's very important to just get the likeness of the character right. So I'm like always looking at the reference that my client provided me and trying to make it look as similar to that as possible. Yeah, and if you're curious about the idea for this piece, so the character is actually standing on top of a tower of some sorts, and it is like the Stormwind city from World of Warcraft, which is being seen in the back. I actually had to log in into the game myself to go there, fly up, get a couple of screenshots just for the reference. Always don't hesitate to spend a little bit extra time to get your references. Also, one thing I might want to comment on are the birds at the corner of the piece. So the idea of them is just not only to kind of try to bring everything together, but also give a little bit of movement into the piece. I don't know if you agree if they fit here or not, but I think they definitely do. They definitely do add a little bit of interest to this artwork, especially with the background being so static. All of the buildings pointing upwards, they don't create a lot of movement, which is definitely some movement is definitely a good piece for a character illustration. Right, so the smoke from the cigar, you can see I tried couple of different shapes, couple of different options, try to build it into the composition with like a bright light from the back of the character, and I play around with couple of different variants here, but yeah, at the end up ditching it all, just because I felt like, you know, even though it looked nice as a graphical element, it kind of took away from the background, which I think is kind of the main focus of the piece, like just the scope of all the city behind the character. As for the second to second process of what I'm doing, just literally the same thing for the most part, kind of going over everything, adjusting, adding little details, adjusting values, bringing some hues here and there. You know, nothing too crazy, but definitely a somewhat tedious, repetitive process that you have to go through. I've actually never done pieces like those before, with such like extreme perspective and that many buildings in the back. I've done like quite a few like that, but not necessarily like this one. So as you can see, I experimented with some outline to kind of stage the painting a bit more. Yeah, definitely a learning process, learning things as I go. Here on the smoke also, a couple of things to comment on. I think for the smoke, it's like the most important thing is to get the shape for it right, like the solid shape. And all the color variations and stuff, you can tweak it later. Like it actually doesn't matter as much as the general shape. And even though this piece is not a great example, since I end up teaching the smoke at the end, still, it is like good thing to keep in mind if you're after that. Can also point out that you can probably see me toggling on and off the layer with different people that I trying to draw in the back, like birds and all the little guys in the background. I ended up not letting it into the final just because, you know, it was like 35 plus hours into the work on this, and I was already too exhausted, and I felt like adding all of this in, it will either require too much work or make the whole piece like look very unfinished. And feel like lights from buildings ended up helping the piece look not too empty, even though you literally don't see a single person in the background. Here's a couple of final touches on the piece. You can see me like playing the shapes, especially closer to the character. You can see on the buildings, on the leaves there. Like I kind of develop shapes so they look fun and interesting on their own. A little bit of additional floating effects, some feathers, some last second value correction, and there it is. The piece is done, it's ready, looking cute, the client is happy, everyone's happy, and yeah, there it is. So thanks all for watching Sunshines, and happy arting.